Don't worry, folks. I'm not stopping for long. I'm only here to introduce somebody that's doing their first video. I always like to introduce people when they do their first video with us, and also just to let you folks know that it is something you can do. There is a facility for you to send your videos in, and you know, just if something crops up, you want to speak about West Ham, then we've got a ready-made audience here for you. This is, after all, the Forum channel. You don't feel you have to be outside the ground or a fan camera on the boats or anything like that. This is the place for you. So anyway, this is from Mike. This is Mike's first video, as I say. You might remember him. He was on Talk West Ham, the phone-in that we do on the main channel. He spoke really well in a very assured fashion on that. Again, he speaks with a calmness that I really like. I really enjoy some of the points that he's going to go on to make, which you're going to listen to in a second. Please leave your comments underneath. Engage with him in the comments section. Over to you, Mike. Thanks very much, mate.
Hello, everyone at Hammers Chat. It's the day after the Monday night debacle against Arsenal. And I'm not going to go too much into the performance about, you know, last night and stuff and what went wrong, because I think enough people have spoken about that, and it's bluntly obvious what the problems were and what the problems have been for quite a while now. So I don't think you need more input on that. But what I wanted to talk about really today was is how this all feels really familiar to me anyway. I'm sure for quite a few other people. If you think back to when Slaven Bilic was in charge and what was going on, you know, especially towards the end of his time here, there's definitely similarities with what's happened with Pellegrini now, and like Bilic at the time, I'm not saying that Pellegrini isn't blameless in this. He absolutely has to take a lot of responsibility for what's happened this season. But I think when you look at how Slav was undermined and let down, you know, not really being fully backed in the window towards the end of his time here, and, you know, a bunch of players being moved on and only 4 being brought in, and like this season, a bunch of players being moved on, 4 of them being strikers, only 2 strikers coming in, and an attacking midfielder and 2 backup goalkeepers, like, with a net spend of 30 million or 20 million, I think it might have even been. I'm not entirely sure on that, so I might have to correct me in the comment section. And like a lot of people have been saying today, and have been saying for a while now, it's becoming, you know, or it should at least become implanted in the obvious to everyone else outside of West Ham that it's not just the managers that are the problem. You know, it's not just David Moyes that's the problem. It's not just Manuel Pellegrini that's the problem. It's not just Slaven Bilic that's the problem. The one common denominator here are the owners. And when I in a way, I have some sympathy for Manuel Pellegrini, because I don't think he'd become a bad manager overnight. I think the game may have moved, you know, on from him, like I think has happened to Jose Mourinho, and hence why I don't think he is the same manager that he once was, because the game's changed and the game's constantly changing. But you even look at Slaven Bilic and what he's doing at West Brom now. Like I struggle to believe that Bilic was a bad manager who's had one good season, and even though he did have his faults with us, but I think in any walk of life, if you're being constantly undermined, especially, you know, in football and with the way our owners do it, when they sort of slyly do it in public, you know, via the usual outlets in the press and on certain websites, it must be very difficult to have motivation to do your job to the best of your abilities. And I look at Pellegrini now, and I look at the things that he's doing, and I don't see the same manager that we had last season. I don't see that desire, that drive to succeed at West Ham. And another thing that I see from outside of the club is people wondering why us fans are so angry at what's happening at our club at the moment. And I think when really all you've got to do is look at the fact that this is our 4th season in the London Stadium and it's our 3rd relegation battle, like, it should be quite easy to figure out why we're not happy. At the end of the day, we reluctantly agreed to leave Upton Park, a place that, you know, all of us have special memories of and hold a real special place in our hearts for. And what we were meant to get in return for leaving there was, move into this next level, which we haven't seen. We haven't gotten close to. Last season was arguably the closest we've gotten to that, and it always comes back down to the owners. Like I said, when you look at the net spends over the past few seasons, last summer you can't really count because obviously 100 million was spent, and it looked like the board had learnt their lesson, but in true Sullivan and Gold fashion, they're just slowly undoing all of the good work they did last year. And at the end of the day, you look at our squad, and when only really 2 players were brought in to strengthen the first team, it's not good enough. There was deficiencies in the squad last year. They just simply weren't addressed. And you can look at that and say that comes down to the manager. I think with the net spend that we've got, I think Pellegrini would have known the weaknesses in our squads, and I just don't think he was given the budget to repair it. But as a result of this, there's a real sense of apathy around the club at the moment, it seems, in terms of the fan base. I'm seeing a load more people, myself included, my mate who I go to the games with, we're not as upset at dire performances and bad results as we used to be. We're kind of just accepting it for what it is, because there seems to be a cycle that's going to be happening for the duration of Golden Sullivan's time here. It seems to be we'll get a new manager in, it'll be a good start, and then because it's going well, be it through arrogance or just simply not wanting to spend the money, we'll see less and less money being spent on the squads, and it will never progress, because we'll take a step forward and then we'll take 2 steps back, and it will derail any good work that has happened. And I wouldn't be surprised for when Pellegrini goes. I think we'll get a stopgap in for the rest of the season, be it a Chris Hughton. I know he's been ruled out, but I mean, the longer we leave this, because we've left this for so long, there are going to be fewer options out there to replace Pellegrini, and I think it's going to be a case of getting someone into the end of the season to keep us up, and then next year we'll get an exciting new manager, and it will look good, and we will spend money, and then it will fall apart again within 12 to 18 months, and we'll just keep repeating this because we have owners who are incapable of taking us to this supposed next level. And the longer it goes on, the more predictable it becomes, and the less people. I don't want to say people don't care anymore. I think people do care, but I think it seems to be stuck, like I said, in this cycle of just the same old problems and the same old mistakes that I think people have just had enough, but to the point where they can't even get angry about it anymore. And that for me is really worrying, because I think that's where a club really starts to fall apart. And I do hope I'm wrong, because I want us to be successful, like everyone does. But at the moment, it's difficult to see any light at the end of the tunnel. And it's even, I like to think I'm quite optimistic when it comes to West Ham. I always give players a benefit of the doubt for a long time before turning on them. But ultimately, I don't think it matters what we do in terms of the manager situation. I just think we're going to be revisiting these same issues again, like I said, in about 18 months' time. And unfortunately, until those 3 go, which we don't know how long that's going to be for, we know what their future plans are when they retire. It could be like this for a very long time, and it's looking more and more evident with each season that, leaving Upton Park was a huge mistake, and they were wrong, and those of us who supported the move were misled massively, and I think being made to look like fools a little bit. And I include myself in that, because I was for the move, and I sit there now wondering what was the point. So yeah, I hope there's good times ahead. There may well be in small patches, but in terms of our long-term future, I can't see much changing for the better, in all honesty. So that's my thoughts on the current, circus that is West Ham United at the moment. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts down below if you can.